Despite being the most wanted man of his era, Pablo Escobar liked being surrounded by cameras. Pablo hired photographers for his events, had professional documentaries produced abroad about his exploits and possessions, and his men and relatives stayed with video cameras to film everything they did, the luxuries that surrounded them and the adventures they starred in. After Pablo Escobar's death, his family made public a selection of his private archives intended for documentary, research, and educational purposes. Join us as we explore some of these rarely seen videos, which remain largely unknown and may offer fresh insights. The first file we will see is a tape that shows Escobar's family gathered in the La Paz neighborhood of Envigado, when Escobar could calmly ride a motorcycle on the streets of Colombia. You can see his son Juan Pablo, who was a year old, in the arms of his mother, Maria Henao, and his siblings and cousins can be heard in the background. By 1978, Pablo Escobar had already entered the business and had just started making a lot of money. He was arrested for being caught with 19 pounds of cocaine with his friends. Back then, Escobar had already kept the bold promise he had made to his friends. He would end his life if he did not have $1 million by age 30. In this video, at the age of 29, Pablo is seen relaxed and cheerful, having already achieved his pledge. The family seemed happy while Pablo rode a motorcycle alongside his son, even crying, unaware that Escobar would become the most powerful drug lord in history. In the 1980s, the motorcycle became a weapon of war in Colombia, thanks to Escobar, who provided his men with the best bikes of the era and taught them to use automatic weapons. This resulted in a very effective criminal method for the missions they had to carry out. Escobar recruited young Colombians from the most disadvantaged neighborhoods and communes, gathered them, and as seen in the following tapes, gave each one a motorcycle to train them. The duty of the hitmen or sentinels was to execute their victims successfully as quickly as possible and then escape from the authorities. The bodyguards, on the other hand, had to remain with the motorcycle near Escobar's window to protect him while he drove his vehicle or he was transported in one. If the man on the motorcycle didn't even care about his own life, but only about protecting the boss, he would be hired by Escobar, who offered him a powerful motorcycle, a weapon, and paid him a lot of money to be his escort. In these recordings, Escobar is seen training his men on trails, streams, and mud, likely in Hacienda Nápoles or nearby sites. Another related tape shows Escobar's men preparing for a Colombian motorcycle race with Juan Pablo. Many of the participants in this event were Escobar's hitmen, who were training and testing how fast they could drive through the streets and escape from the authorities. The next video was filmed by Escobar's son around 1990 in a garage in the Antioquia neighborhood, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Medellin. Juan Pablo is seen surrounded by Escobar's hitmen, who were also his bodyguards, helping him with a racing motorcycle they built themselves, as Juan Pablo recounted. This is an interesting archive because Juan Pablo not only recorded the motorcycle, but also captured and immortalized on video Escobar's men, who at the time were the most wanted in Colombia. Hitmen like Pinina, considered once the right-hand man of Pablo Escobar, among his most reliable and close men, who was responsible for some of the most notorious murders in the history of the cartel, such as participating in the assassination of Justice Minister Lara Bonilla and presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galan. Giovanni Lopera, another of Escobar's most powerful hitmen, known for being a ruthless and efficient assassin, appeared uncomfortable being filmed in the video. Just like other lesser-known criminals from the cartel who also appear in the film, a private moment in which they seem relaxed and calm with their vehicles parked outside the residence, even though they were the main target of the authorities at that time. Regardless of being in full war against the Colombian state, Escobar and his men did not seem worried at all, and their demeanor could not be louder, which gives much to think about who really had authority in Colombia at that time. The next file shows Juan Pablo Escobar's son, along with his girlfriend and other relatives visiting the United States in 1991. This is proof that the U.S. government had no trouble admitting Escobar's family and friends. In the tape, we see Juan Pablo with his girlfriend drinking alcohol in Las Vegas. gambling in casinos, riding in limousines, and even attending a legendary fight between Mike Tyson and Donovan. According to Juan Pablo in an interview, they encountered no issues with U.S. authorities, despite his father being fully engaged in a war with the Colombian government at that time. Juan Pablo mentioned that on that trip, they spent more than $500,000 in less than 2 months on hotels, limousine rentals, living the good life, and having fun with his girl. While in Colombia, at that same moment, his father was about to surrender to the authorities. All the journalists, all Colombians were expecting this moment, and today, finally at 5:11 in the afternoon, the journalists who were near the high-security prison of Envigado saw a helicopter arrive from which Pablo Escobar descended. When the journalist was finally able to interview him, this is what he said.
Deseo sumarle todos los años de cárcel que sean necesarios para contribuir al fortalecimiento de la democracia de mi querida patria colombiana. Con mi presentación y mi sometimiento a la justicia, deseo también rendir un homenaje a mis padres, a mi irreemplazable e inigualable esposa, a mi hijo pacifista de 14 años, a mi pequeña bailarina sin dientes de 7 años y a toda mi familia a quien tanto quiero. Pablo Escobar Gaviria, Envigado, Colombia, junio 19 de 1991.